My bank's conversion is done. I started out with the Monster Ram, which all by itself was probably the single best gain that I've seen on this truck since the Jenny Craig weight loss program. It now has the hard pipes all the way, and the Super Scoop, which is a massive improvement in filtration. It's only a minor increase in turbo noise. I don't really call that noise. I call that beautiful sounds that come from the the turbocharger. It relocates the original sensors that are in the bottom of the airbox to right there, and it's a massive air filter. I can put my entire arm, almost my whole entire forearm will fit inside the opening for the air filter. So it is substantial in its ability to add airflow. Again, the heater delete is probably, coupled with this air intake, this Ram air intake, again, the best dollar spent on this truck. I've seen up to 3 miles per gallon gain so far. This truck is an HO, as you can see from the ice and transmission stick right there. This truck had a best of 16 miles per gallon, maybe 65, 68 miles an hour, not towing anything. It does have the 410 gear, so with a 373, it'd probably be 1 to 2 miles per gallon better. Even at 18 miles per gallon, it's a far cry from the 2020 truck that I had. That's a 2500 standard duty engine that would get 22 to 24 miles per gallon. So my quest in this power has been to achieve my original fuel mileage. And on a trip to Florida the other day, with all these items intact, I finally saw 19 to 20 miles per gallon, cruising at 70 to 72 miles per hour. That was with the adaptive cruise control set, having to slow down every now and then for trucks, cars, and traffic. But my average was an easy 19.5 miles per gallon. I've never in the life of this truck seen 19 miles per gallon on anything. So that over time will certainly pay for itself. It was quite an investment to go this route. I did do the weight loss program, but I didn't do it for the most purposes that most people would see. I actually would have rathered have everything intact, but the problem is that the calculations for headwinds and pulling large boats with T-tops and whatnot, and a lot of obstructions, there's not enough DEF equation calculation to equal the flow necessary. So what ends up happening is that the engine is demanding more DEF than the calibration will allow. Therefore, it puts the engine into limp mode, calling it there's a failure of the DEF pump to deliver. And because of that, the dealership can't fix it because their techs can't calibrate or change calibrations to offset the issue. So I ended up having to do the removal, and since then I've had 0 issues. But literally I only picked up maybe a half a mile per gallon, 1 mile per gallon doing that. It wasn't the great big change that I really was looking for, but not having the service issues, not having to spend $10 a day in DEF was a big deal. So that being said, I'm getting ready to wrap up doing the rear axle, and we'll go from there. Check out my rear end. Yeah, ever since I was a baby, I had a great rear end. Anyway, this is the 12-inch heavy-duty rear axle that comes on the HO series trucks. It's completely different and larger than the 11.5 or 11.75 that comes on the other three. I say 350s, 3500s. Sorry, the Ford in me keeps coming out. if you're gonna do this job, up here in the spare tire, it's got this little stem that sticks out that's like cut off cable. If you look up here, you'll see the cable. What they do is they cut it off, and that's if you don't put that paper towel on it or something over it, you're gonna cut yourself up. It's just gonna happen. So the first rear axle, the first time I decided to change the rear axle, the listing on Summit Racing's website showed that for this truck, the HO, they had the proper part number. Well, I drained the fluid out, lined the pan up with the O-ring already installed, and it did not fit. So I called Banks and I said, "What's up?" And they assured me that I had the wrong part number. And yet when I went to Summit's website and I looked at the part number that they had, that was the part number that was listed. The problem was that Summit Racing had the incorrect part with that part number in their system. That is since my screw up, or not my screw, but my inability to install the cover, that has changed, and they have updated their website. So now, when you decide to order it, again, be sure if you have the HO 2021 model, that's the difference. The 2021 model comes with a 12-inch rear axle. You've got to make sure you've got the right differential cover. And I'll put the two together so you can see the differences between them, because it's very subtle. But if you don't have the right cover, it won't bolt up. Alright, so now we have the cover off, and what I'll recommend is you take these bottom bolts off here, leave this bolt here and this bolt here in, loosen the top ones up, and the cover will start to leak. Now you see it's got a reusable silicone gasket. There's no silicone that you put on it or anything like that. It actually has a silicone gasket that you just put into place, and so it's reusable, and that's nice. Thank you, Ram, for doing that. Actually, it's probably Dana that did that. What you want to do then is you're going to have this long stud here, and then these two here are long studs, and it holds the brackets for the brake lines. So you want to make note of those, take a picture beforehand while you're doing the deal, and then that way you'll have everything that you need when you're putting it back together to remember exactly which studs or which posts that those brackets were held on by when you're putting bolts back in. Now the new new cover comes with its own bolts, and it even comes with its own little supply of Loctite. The beautiful thing about Banks is they literally send you everything that you need to do the job, sometimes even the tools that are necessary to do the job. So I'm going to let this drain out a little bit, then I'm going to wipe this whole thing down and put some, brake clean or whatnot on the surface, just to make sure that the surface is nice and clean, because we're going back with an O-ring seal, not the silicone gasket. I'll be right back. All right, so here's the new differential cover, and I have to tell you, if you've never opened anything from Gale Banks or watched his videos, the man is legit. You open up the box, and it says "Prepare to smile," and then as you get further into the box, it even says "Open here." That's like having a box of cookies and it says "Open here." I mean, imagine if it said "Open somewhere else." I mean, I'd be running all over the house looking for a good location. And there it is. This is the one that fits. So I'll pull this one out and I'll share with the other one side by side so you can see the difference. Talk about having you covered. No, this is not for the front differential. This is for the non-HO dually. And this one is for the HO dually that has the 12-inch rear axle. On the 2021 models, the axle is different. Check this out. Huge difference. They solder this one. This is the one right here that gets the bracket for the brake line. Pretty substantial difference. This this one here is built up a little larger or thicker. And you see, here's the scoops. Right here, forces the air up and through. That's an amazing difference. Look at that. You got sight plug, and this one here, you can see that this is for the thermocouple that I'm adding so that I can see what my rear axle temperatures are. And you've got a drain plug right here. This one also has the drain plug and the part for the thermocouple. And then it has a fill port on the top. So you can fill it right from the top, check your fluid window. Real easy, real easy. Let me flip these over and you can see the difference from the inside cover. Okay, so here's the back side. You can see I already put the O-ring on this one, had it all ready to go. This is a 19241J. This is, again, not for the HO. This is for the 11.5, 11.75 differential. I think this is the same as what comes with the Chevrolet trucks as well. Then you get to this one. This one has more of an angular than a round look. The thermocouple's a little further down. You get these heat sinks right here. I think this is really cool because as the differential is spinning, you know, the ring, it's always sending fluid back to the pinion. I think that's really, really cool. Gives it that shower effect. And then, of course, this one here, these ribs stay the same size, where these actually protrude more. Interesting the way that the difference is in different rear axles. Leave a comment if you've got any questions about this. Let me lay the O-ring in this one and then install it. Now what's cool is here's the O-ring, here's the thing for the brake line. Comes with the thread locker, stainless steel ARP bolts. It's pretty badass. And then, like with all Banks products, you can go to bankspower.com, register your product. They got cool stuff in here. And then, like, for everything that you install, you just follow the QR code, and the QR code gives you all of the instructions in color, so you can blow the pictures up and follow along with someone who's already installed it with success. All right, I want to be very clear about this. The factory specs for the rear differential cover show a 30 foot-pounds of torque for the fasteners. I promise you, if you do that, you're gonna end up breaking them off. This is an O-ring seal. It does not need that much torque, especially when we're talking about a machined aluminum surface that mates to a machined steel surface with a receiver groove and an O-ring. If you want to crack down the bolts on a sheet metal stamped differential cover, have at it, because they've got a big wide shoulder on them as well. But on an aluminum part like this, 18, I'm telling you, 18 foot-pounds is plenty. And when you're doing that, you just bring it in there. As soon as it hits 18 consistently, that's when you stop. And no more. And go all the way around. You know, crisscross pattern is what I'm doing. Go all the way around. And once they've all hit 18, go back and start over again. And when you can go to no more than 19 on your meter, and they don't need any more turning, and I would say 20 is the max. 20 is your max. But I'm setting at 18 as my initial torque. I'm going to torque them till I do two retorques all the way around, and then I'll go to 19, and then it's plenty. With the Loctite, an O-ring seal, machine mated surfaces, that is plenty. You never want to break a bolt off, and you never want to do something that's wrong. So I'm telling you, in all of my expertise of putting machine parts together, like aircraft turbines and stuff like that, with that size fastener and this type of coarse thread, that's as far as I would go with it. All right, we've got all the bolts are torqued, and in the case of anything that you're doing like this, don't ever assume at all that these are torqued. The drain plug and the sight plug, always make sure that they are torqued and in place. We're going with the AMSOIL. Yeah, buy it by the 5-gallon pail. But this is what we need, and it's good stuff. And we actually put that in all the lower units for the outboards as well. So, you know, when you got to use the best, you use the best. Here we go. All right, Operation Rear End is done, and check out the sight plug. I love it. Got the nice clean fluid in there. AMSOIL gear. Check out the detail on this. Even the drain plug, or the fill plug, I mean, even the fill plug has got a little laser etched banks on it. On these bolts here, I added 10mm stainless washers, and I had to use their tab because the one that comes from the factory is plastic. Remember, the one that comes from the factory sits on a stud, so the stud would hold the cover, and then you just have the nut that holds the little piece there. Remember to put your brake line back into the clip so it doesn't vibrate and cause issues with your connections. Notice I put a little bit of reflective on this. It's going to stand out when somebody's lights hit it, so it's going to be cool. No pun intended. And we're done. Eventually, when I get my my iDash, the data monster hooked up, I'm gonna put a thermocouple in here and wire that to the back. I have it all, I just haven't figured out. I'm gonna add a few more things to my data systems, and then I'll run everything all at once. But here we are, we're done. Get ready to change the oil, and that'll be it for the maintenance on the truck today.